and welcome back to another English grammar lesson. I'm the English Pen, and today we are finally going to learn about the direct object, when it is used, how it is used, and how to identify the direct object in a sentence. We will also learn more about pronouns and transitive verbs, as they are helpful to understand when learning how to use direct objects. Now, you may be familiar with what an object is. If you're not, feel free to check out my previous video, which explains the subject, the verb, and the object. Basically, an object is something that receives the action of the subject in a sentence. In English, there are two types of objects, the direct and indirect object. I'm going to cover the direct object in the lesson, since it's easier to understand. In a sentence, the direct object is the object that directly receives the action of the verb. A simpler way of thinking is that the direct object answers the question, what was affected by the verb? For example, in the following sentence, we have they watch television. They is the subject, and watch is the verb. To find the direct object, we ask, what did they watch? They watch television, so that is our direct object. Direct objects can come in four forms. Number 1, nouns. Nouns are person, place, thing, or idea. Examples include Sophia, Canada, hat, and kindness. Number 2, pronouns. Pronouns are words that replace a person's or object's name. They include me, you, him, her, and so on. Notice that the pronouns are in their objective forms and not their subjective forms. When acting as an object, the objective forms of pronouns are used. We'll get into detail shortly. Number 3, phrases. Phrases are a group of words that convey an idea. They don't make sense by themselves without the rest of the sentence. I'll go into more detail for phrases too. Number 4, clauses, which are phrases that contain both a subject and a verb. However, for the purpose of this video, we are not going to cover clauses, only nouns, pronouns, and phrases. Clauses require a higher skill level to completely understand, so that is a video for the future. Now, let's go back to using pronouns as objects. Again, pronouns are words that replace an object's or person's name. Here are the list of pronouns in their subjective forms, and here are those pronouns in their objective forms. The subjective forms are used when they are the subject in a sentence, and the objective forms are used when they are the object in a sentence. For example, take the sentence, I love her. I is the subject, love is the verb, and her is the direct object. Notice how I is in its subjective form, and her is in its objective form. However, if we were to switch the two pronouns, the sentence becomes she loves me. Her is changed into its subjective form, she, and I is changed into its objective form, me. Her loves I, however, is grammatically incorrect. Depending on what role they play in a sentence, the appropriate form of the pronoun will be used. On to phrases. Since phrases can be direct objects are not always one word. They can consist of multiple words. For example, we love the big chocolate chip cookies. We is the subject and love is the verb. What do we love? We love the big chocolate chip cookies. This phrase is our direct object. Now, we've talked a lot about what the direct object can look like, But when can we use it? Well, this is where things can get a bit tricky. Direct objects can only be used with transitive verbs. Transitive verbs are verbs that need an object after them. Also, with these kind of verbs, the action transits or travels from the subject through the verb and to the direct object. Let's use an example. He kicks the ball. He is the subject, kicks is the verb, and the ball is the direct object. Now, to kick is a transitive verb. How do we know? Well, if we say he kicks, then that would not make sense at all. He kicks what? This is what I mean when I say transitive verbs must have an object after it. Otherwise, the sentence would not be complete. Did you know that sentences don't always have an object? It's true. For example, the sentence she sits does not have an object, but the sentence still makes sense. Verbs like to sit, to sleep, and others do not have objects after them. They are a part of a different group of verbs. For this lesson, those verbs are not necessary to know. You only need to remember that if a verb without an object makes sense by itself, then that verb cannot have an object. Alright, so now for some practice. Kari paints the dollhouse pink and yellow. Identify the direct object in this sentence. It is helpful to first identify the subject and verb. Remember, the direct object can be more than one word. You can pause the video now. Kari is the subject, paints is the object, and the rest of the sentence is the direct object of the verb paints. Here is another one. We do not like rainy days. What is the direct object in this sentence? We is the subject, do is the auxiliary or helping verb, like is the main verb, and rainy days is the direct object. Notice that this sentence is written in the negative form. You can tell by the presence of do not. While researching for this video, I was personally surprised by how much information was needed to understand direct objects. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of how direct objects work in a sentence. See you next time! This is the English Pen signing out.